Record to this. So, hello. Welcome to part two of our, well, it's still newish series of the love framework. As mentioned last time, love really is being used in the context of just relationships, and it's not necessarily just relationships that are romantic, relationships in any sphere of life. The is what we're really looking at. And last week was really not last week, the last session we had quite a lot of vibrant conversations. So let's see where we go with this one. I'm going to start with this piece here. Let me just put that in the chat. If I can find where my chat box has gone. Here we go. Right. This one is called Paper Love. This should so work. From what can be seen, this was meant to be. Profound compatibility, says the gods of algorithms. If only life was lived on paper, this should have been love ever after. I'm going to read that again. Paper love. This should so work. From what can be seen, this was meant to be. Profound compatibility, says the god of algorithms. If only life was lived on paper, this should have been love ever after. What are you hearing?
The first thing came to my thoughts, the absence of the human element, because technology has taken over and it's pure logic. And love is not about logic. Love is about doing something that everything is saying, don't do that.
Mm.
But yet still, there is a greater force on the inside that it does make sense. But you do it anyway.
I like that. I like there's several interesting points you've put on the table there in terms of that. There's a lot to be said about what you just said there. Let's hear what Claudette has to say, and then maybe we'll get into some of that.
I thought of love is not a theory,
I love
right? And love as a theory is not the same as love experienced.
that. I love that. Oh, we're gonna have a good day today. Love is not a theory. I like that. Love is not a theory. Life is to be experienced. I just think that's So I suppose, hi Kate. I suppose then the point is then what do we say? I'm gonna put this. Hi Kate, I've just reposted what we've just read out. We've just read this piece that's in the chat. Hopefully you can see it now. And we're just talking about it. We're talking about, yeah, some very interesting points that have been put on the table already about love not being theory. What was that other thing you said, Claudette?
Um, love love is not a theory. It's not the same as love experienced.
Right. So love is to be experienced. No, it's not theoretical. And Ian, you were talking about this whole idea of
Logics.
it's beyond logic. It's beyond logic. Um, yeah. I mean, Kay, I know you just literally popped in the room, but do you have anything on that on this at all?
Well, I it's been a topic that I've been exploring a lot in the last probably 7 years, I think, like since I got divorced and had to come to terms with, that wasn't love, and why did I kind of go along with that for so long, and what is love now? And for me, I read Steve Hardison's book recently. He calls himself the ultimate coach, and he talks about you can't buy a cup of love, and love is created and it's
Mm.
made with intention and action, and I think if you think of some of the things like Michael Neal, I remember in the lockdown when I first got into the kind of thing that I do now, he would often say that we're made of love and yet we're always searching for it. So there's that thing about when we think about people we love, we create those feelings quite easily, even not necessarily romantic love, but love for our family and or even anyone else, for humanity, I mean, I was just watching a documentary yesterday about it's called The Big Cases, and it usually looks at quite kind of murder and stuff, but this episode was about the cutting down of the sycamore tree in the Sycamore Gap. If you remember that, a little while ago. And again, all the outrage that people had and the tears, and people were like, I loved that tree and that tree meant so much to me. So again, when you think about in that context, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. Uh,
You want to say hello? No. No.
Hello, how are
We got a
you?
small one joining in the
We're start, we're
background.
starting them we're starting them young these days.
Exactly. She's fine. Come on.
So
What?
I love so many of the things that have been put on the table, really, because this piece really is alluding to the fact that if care is not taken, I think Ian was alluding to this, we begin to look at love from a sort of kind of logic and a 1 + 1 = 2 kind of way.
Mm,
And we do a disservice to the complexity, but yet the simplicity of it.
mm,
And yeah, and things that look like they shouldn't work, and things that you assume would work don't work. And it's kind of like, why not? Right? And I think I love what you said there, Kay, that if we are love, then I think it's the same thing, that we as human beings are so multidimensional. And therefore, if we are love, love is multidimensional by definition. And therefore, it's kind of an invitation to approach it from that place. We all are it, we all have it, but in order for it to work amongst ourselves, we need to appreciate that there are elements to it that are beyond logic, and it has to be lived out and worked out in that human to human interaction. I don't know if anybody has anything else to add on that.
I'm also moving, just having a glimpse of the God kind of love, the God type of love, where if God is love
Mm,
and God lives in us,
mm,
then we have to question why is that we love some people and we don't. We should love everybody, or we have the ability to love everybody.
mm,
I remember a situation that I had where someone had a property that I had, and they ran up the light bill, the water bill, everything. And I had just stopped talking to them for about a year
mm,
because I had to pay almost $500,000 to clear all the bills. And one day I sat there, and it's like God just said to me, that's not me.
mm,
That's not me. I mean, if I was to take a book and start to make note of all the things you have done all your life, you couldn't be able to stand.
mm,
And in that moment, I realized I'm handling this thing wrong. I
mm.
called the person, I spoke about the issues, kept the facts what they were, and today we're best of friends.
mm,
That's a perfect example of exactly what we're talking about here. That makes no sense, and you seem very justified in the approach you took. And one could conclude, if we close the chapter right there, that's the right thing to do, and that's what will going to happen. And you would not have seen the possibility of you being best of friends until you open up the possibility that there's a different way to approach this.
mm,
Also interesting enough, the conclusion that it's not possible to love someone like that because of what they did.
mm,
Yet on paper it may look that way, but in reality, once you open the door to that possibility, something else happens. And then we're
Mm,
not saying, obviously, in all cases that will be the outcome either.
mm,
But it's being open to that possibility. I think that's just a powerful story, really.
mm.
Um, anyone else?
You're okay. Yeah, I think it's I think that that's a great story, and it's funny how our mind changes how we feel about things because we drop the story then, or the story seems to have less hold on us.
I
And
love
at
it.
one point, when we're very bought into the story, then it seems like, yeah, well, I do want to, yeah, that seems the right thing to do. He shouldn't have done that. And it's all the judgment, isn't it? That I always talk in my coaching about the thinking takes us out of the natural love and presence. And that's where we get confused, don't we? Because when we're trying to logic love, then we're doing it up in the mind that it's not the thing. And yeah, to your point, Frank, that it doesn't always work out. I think it's lovely in your example, but when I think of I haven't spoke to my dad for like 22 years, and it comes up from time to time. My twin sister, knowing what I do, she said, "Well, how come you just can't forgive him?" And I said, but for me, it's not forgiveness because for me, there's no I don't feel ill towards him. I just have no desire to have a relationship with him because it's been so long, and for me, it's a peaceful thing. It's not a thing that comes with any kind of resistance. I just don't particularly see the need for it. And again, that one challenges people a lot because if most people have normal relationships with their family, then I have people sometimes, even people that I don't know, I know, but you should. That's an important relationship for you. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like, that's from your perspective. I'm like, for me, it was probably one of the simplest and I think most courageous and yet um in a way, low key decisions I ever made. I just had the idea, maybe I don't need this stress comes with that relationship. Maybe it's just not a good relationship for me to have. And I just pulled away from it. And then that was it. So it was not some big, thing. And I just suddenly, and then it had been a while and a while, and I thought, actually, this is peaceful. I don't feel any animosity towards him particularly, and that's it. So I think it's yeah, but again, I guess there's one for me if I get challenged about it, and it is an interesting one for me because I haven't got to that place where I want to do that.
Right.
And I think it's fine, but I also believe that people are the product of their conditioning and whatever he did. And he wasn't an awful dad. He was just a bit irresponsible and I say neglectful, but just in a way of being selfish, not like obviously neglect, nothing
Yeah.
bad, but yeah.
No, I hear that, and thanks for sharing that because that obviously is something that borders on the area of vulnerability in sharing something that personal. And it's interesting. It is what it is until it's not, right? So
Mm.
if that's to change, the thought will come, and the motivation will
Yeah.
come, the drive will come, and
Yeah.
and that will be that. And if it's not, then it's not.
Yeah.
Um, but that's interesting. Were you going to say something, Claudette?
Yeah, I just want to ask a question.
Right.
Where does fairy tale love fit in all this?
Right. Well, well, well. That answers itself in the essence that sometimes the idea of a fairy tale is it's a pictorial representation or idealistic representation of something that's considered like, oh yeah, happily ever after, and this is happily ever after, and every story and everything ends in happily ever after.
Mm,
Reality's life is not that, and again,
mm.
that's what we're pointing to in that regard. And actually, in answer to that question, let's look at the next piece because it might actually tie into that. Did you have something specific you were going to put on the back of that question, Claudette?
No, no, I was just going to say because I think when we think about paper love and we think about theory, in
Yeah,
theory and fairy tale seems to go together.
Mm.
yeah. No,
Well,
I
we
get
well
that.
we think we do. We're sold that, aren't we? We're
Yeah,
sold that, But it's funny because actually, before I went off on a tangent about my dad,
yeah.
I was actually the thought I had was that a lot of the work I do now is helping people to dismantle that idea of soulmates, and
Right.
that's a romantic fairy tale thing, isn't it? Soulmates and That
Yeah.
doesn't that make us feel special to be chosen? And I found the one, and out of 8 billion people, this was the one. And for me, I say like we can flex that a bit. You know, plenty of people have several relationships, and who knows? Maybe I'm a cynic. Maybe it does exist. I don't know.
What?
Um, can I add in on this?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
please.
yeah.
Because
Go.
when you spoke about fairy tale, my mind went back probably about 20 years ago,
Hmm.
Mhm.
because I'm 55
No more
now.
now. No more. Last one.
And I remember going to a church camp, and I'm at the church camp, and it was going quite well. I looked across the room, I saw a young lady, and believe you me, my heart literally stopped.
Hmm.
How come you didn't die then if your heart literally stopped?
That's the power of love. Now, the irony is, I said I have to speak with her. When we got a break, I sat with her under a tree and we started speaking. And we both were lost in utopia that the session
Hmm.
had begun. And for 20 minutes, we were there under the tree talking and not realizing the session had begun. I thought that was it.
Hmm.
Married now for 26 years, but I've never felt that for anyone in my entire life.
Hmm.
But that is nice. I guess it does. I mean, again, I think it does happen.
But this is the interesting thing, though, isn't it? And I think that's the point that for us as human beings, when we have had an experience, our next tendency is to then extrapolate that to everybody else.
Yeah.
But not everybody else is going to have that experience.
Mm.
And also, I'm kind of with Kay on the soulmate kind of piece. Yes, you can connect with somebody at that level. That's reality. But if something happened to that person and they died, people who buy into that explicitly then kind of claim, well, there's nobody else for me.
Mm.
And then they close
Okay.
down. Do you see the point? They
Mm.
close down to the possibility. But actually, there are people who have had that connection with someone, had that.
Yeah.
Something happens to the person, and they're no longer in their lives, or they died, or whatever. And they
Mm.
do find somebody else that they can have a loving relationship with. So
Yeah.
it's kind of that not holding it to a point where you exclude that possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not using the idea of soulmate as a reason then not to be open if something happens to that. And there are
Yeah.
Mm.
opportunities to connect with other people at that kind of level.
Yeah.
Mm. And I think there's
Because
that thing about you feel deficient if you don't get that. There's the
yeah.
other
Well,
thing
there is
about
that
that,
as well.
isn't it? So it's.
It,
Where
yeah, and
there's a guy, so I don't know
yeah,
if you
go
know
on.
someone called Terry Real, who I've been
No,
seeing a
no, no.
bit more lately, but he's a relationship coach. He does a lot with conflict.
Yeah,
And it really made me laugh because he said in his talks, he often talks about normal marital hatred.
yeah.
And and the host was asking him about that, and he said, "What do you mean by that?" And he's like, "Well, no one's ever asked me what it means." He said, "I've been talking about this for 30 years, and when you're married, you just have those moments where you get into like he calls it normal marital hatred, but the fact that conflict is normal and that's his thing. And again, when we've got this idealized view of love, there's no space for that, is there? And that's
Right.
often what erodes relationships because we think, well, this can't be it.
Right, exactly. So it's kind of where you set your expectation and where disappointment comes from. So
Mm,
that whole idea of I believe that person was my soulmate, and
mm,
now that something's happened, I'm
mm,
doomed because now where else do I go?
mm,
So yeah, Ian, were you gonna come back on that?
Yeah, I'm just saying that I think one of the things I've learned out of that situation is that it's important that we manage our expectations.
Hmm.
mm,
Because honestly, I understand people, I've never taken drugs, but I understand what happens.
yeah.
Because what I am told is that when someone takes drugs for the first time,
Hmm.
it takes them on a high.
Mm-hmm.
And why they continue to take drug is that they are trying to get that high that they have had for the very first time, and
Right.
they spend their entire life trying to get back to that place.
No, I buy that. No, I hear that. I hear, and that's very important in the long-term relationships and things like that, where you've had those experiences and you think, well, this is what good looks like, and if I can't get this, then something is wrong. We need to
Mm,
Yeah,
dissolve it, and I need to go and look for that other person who's
yeah,
going to give me that rush,
yeah,
that
yeah.
high.
yeah,
Yeah, and I have a friend who's had that where she was so in love with this guy and it didn't work. And on it, I'd never ever seen someone so upset in my life about a relationship. And then it actually happened to me with someone, but
Mm,
I always knew I wanted to meet someone and I was open to it. And I'm not, it's no disrespect to her, but for me, I could put that to bed after a while, after a lot of tears, let's be honest, but put that to bed. But for her, she'd gone on a few dates. She's like, it's not really worth it. No one's going to match up to that
mm,
person. And there's that closed offness about it, which I feel like, I don't know. I feel sad for, but maybe not. Maybe that's my stuff that I need to deal with. That maybe she's perfectly happy with that. So,
mm. I think the thing behind all of it, though, is the ability of our mind to present our current experience
mm,
as the only potential or possibility that
mm,
exists, while masking the fact that it's able to then morph over time to
Yeah.
create a different experience with someone else. And I
mm,
think the thing that comes through here is that having that open door in
mm.
understanding that there are several experiences we can have and how much of that experience is down to someone else and how much of it is down to how we react to that. So Kay was saying something earlier about this story about something. So when we have a story about somebody or something, then we're able to experience something within ourselves. But what we're experiencing is coming from us. It's not coming from the other person. So have you not wondered how you can feel so great about somebody and then maybe they do something or something happens and the very same person that's like then there's like how do you do something like that? I'm not ready. So how much of that is attributable to the person, how much of it is us, and how much of what's coming out of us depends on how we're relating to what's happened, right?
Yeah. I
So
like that, Fran. I love that because you're talking and I'm reflecting on myself
mm,
in that I realized that having got married,
mm,
this person comes with their own everything, their own culture. And when you have clashes because of ignorance and pride and whatever else that I might have had, it almost became almost unmanageable
mm.
until I realized that this is who the person is. And I am the one that has to change. But as men, I think sometimes we want to change the person and you want it, but the truth is that's who the person is. Mind you, you won't know everything about the person at first, but when you get married, you're going to see different aspects like an onion. You peel off different layers, and some layers you may not like. But the truth is, how love actually works, you have to just put all that aside because if you're going to go to 1 Corinthians 13, it tells you about love hates no things and all these different things it talks about that. Listen, if you truly love,
Mm.
if you truly love, it will almost seem as if you become vulnerable that this person, no matter what they do, I'm still gonna choose you.
Right. Okay, that hold that thought because I'm about to read this next piece that alludes to some of that. This one is called Perfect Partner. I am marrying a perfect partner who matches my list with every single tick. I'm so lucky like this that such a being will exist after they've seen my exorcist. Out with the now, in with the new, now for a life of wedded bliss. I'm going to read that again. Perfect partner. I am marrying a perfect partner who matches my list with every single tick. I'm so lucky like this that such a being will exist after they've seen my exorcist. Out with the now, in with the new, now for a life of wedded bliss. You laughing?
I'm laughing because I said, what happens when we wake up and smell the coffee?
We laugh though, but someone mentioned about expectation and disappointment, right? This is part of the narrative sometimes we go into these relationships with that. Yeah, I can see that bit's not quite there, but don't worry, we'll fix all that. And that goes back to what you were saying, Ian, earlier. This idea. Auntie, you're a bit quiet there. You've gone on mute. Can you speak to us? Are you able to speak?
I'm getting ready now.
Okay, all right, that's
I'm
fine.
switching over. Mm.
Does anybody have any experience of this? Kind of this whole idea of marrying the ideal of somebody rather than the reality of them?
I have loads. Just let me just get ready.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
I have loads. Oh, where is this thing? I want to change to my tablet now to be able to see. I can't find it. I can't find Zoom now.
It's all right. We can hear you. You can speak even if we
Okay.
can't see you.
All right then. It's nice to speak with my face, isn't it? Well, you will see. You will see whether I'm joking or I'm telling lies.
You're
I'm
right.
coming up now in a minute.
All right. Anybody else while we're waiting?
Well, I think this one is really common. There's this thing about dating and how it's a bit like an interview where it's the professional, it's the mask, isn't it? And not for everyone, but for a lot of people, I'm all dressed up and here's me and I'm really being my best self. And then especially I think obviously my daughter, she's coming up to 3. And that's difficult. That is a hard, I don't know if you've got children. I know you do, Frank, but that is difficult when you're tired and there's a lot and there's hormones and that your partner's going to see some pretty different sides of you and you them, when you're sleep deprived and so yeah, if you go in thinking it's all going to be perfect all the time, I think that can really shock people. And I think there needs to be more prep in terms of what relationships actually look like and how we repair. And I think we're probably in a different stage now where we're much more informed younger and through social media and stuff and different things. But if you don't kind of have those role models for what that looks like, you can end up in some quite unhelpful patterns of dealing with that kind of conflict. And yeah.
No, I hear that. But then again, on the flip side, social media can be part of the problem in that people tend to put their best foot forward on social media. They tend to present all the best parts of themselves, and we often think that's what we signed up for. But and I think that dating or at least getting to know each other and trying to find situations where you can really get to understand where you're both coming from helps you set that realistic expectation up front.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So, Andy, you promised us a story.
Yes, I'm reading. You know me. I'm very clever. I read all things where I may not check my phone for the whole day. So I just want to know the right thing. I don't want to talk out of your question.
No, that's fine. Right, go on.
Now, what is it about? Brief me. Just don't let me waste time.
So we're talking about marrying people with expectations of who they are rather than the reality of who they are, and believing that you're going to change them. You're going to be the one to make them right.
Okay, all right. Mine is a reverse.
Okay, go on.
It's a reverse. The gentleman, I love the way you talk. It's nice when you are open up, when you accept what you are doing wrong. That is when that's the beginning of love. That is the beginning of building up in a fresh way. Now, in my own case, my husband, well, let's use the word boyfriend. My you love me because I always smile, I always care, I do this. He thought that was all. He doesn't see any other side of me. That is why they say it's love blind. Love is blind, but it's no more blind. It's this. So we got married. Those days it's a joining husband that was raining. We were both in Nigeria, but she came to England in the 50s. Then I joined in the 60s. So by the time I came then, my mind was to follow my education. So he promised, he has written so many letters, come and join me. And so, yeah, he was waiting, anxiously waiting for good wife. And so when I came, my uncle, I put her with my uncle. My uncle said, my husband, we did a native marriage in Nigeria. He said, my husband is living in outside London, Rugby. I should go and know. I said, living with a man. I can't live with a man now. I want to further my education. She has promised, she has given me a nursing school, and so on and so forth. my character begins to show, even to my uncle. So to cut the long story short, we went there. I just put little two clothes on my bag to go and know where he's living, not to live with him. So problem started. Hello, I love you. Oh no, don't love me. Don't touch me. That's just it. You promised me school. Don't spoil my life because I'm hoping to carry on with my education. You want to ruin my life? Touching me, doing what? No, thank you. So that is how where the argument started. It's quarreling, and quarreling, and so on forth. So the bottom line of it is then the building, then we moved to Iran to my uncle. We are living in, we are first of all went to Leicester, lived there, moved to London. So he has to pack up his school, pack up his job, and came to London because I want to stay in London where people are. So, and when everything went wrong, to the extent that beating, can you imagine biting somebody's finger and taking the person to the hospital? Then I went to report myself to my uncle. I said, this is what I've done. I didn't mean it, and so on and so forth. Though to the extent that the people that we are living together in the same building, they see my husband as a horrible man. Because every time it's the fighting is not beating up. But they will make sure that they don't greet him. It's me they love. They didn't know that I was the terrible one. So to the extent he was sat up there and cried. So when he cried, when I saw the tears, that is when I was touched. And I promised my mind, I will change. Oh, I will change. Oh, I will change. He did everything possible to make me happy, but he didn't see the wrong side of me at all. So love is blind. But everything came together. We changed. We continue to love one another that I even love too much. Like a Balaji's mom will say, you can't see everything I have is husband. Watching clothes, doing this, husband. He didn't know that I punished this man in the past. So I was pouring everything out to the extent that he was so free and happy.
Wow, now that's an interesting story, and that takes us back to our original piece about this idea that in theory this is what it is, but with love it's possible for it to be something else. It's that open door that there is no one conclusion to it. Thanks so much for sharing that, because again, I mean, the level to which people are being really vulnerable here and sharing their personal stories is touching. Any quick add to that before we go to the next piece?
I just think maybe there's a like age generation thing about working through those challenges,
I
and
hear that.
that nowadays I think, or I say younger generations,
Yeah.
um, Esther Perel, in her book Mating in Captivity, I think it was, she says that it used to be shame if you left your partner, but the new shame is staying with someone that you're not in love with.
Right.
And I think there's that thing. So it's great that you worked through it. And I think when you hear stories and people really stuck through it, and then you get through and you find your way, and that's really, lovely. But I think nowadays we kind of stop earlier in that trouble bit, and because partly probably because we can and there is less shame, and
Yeah.
maybe if people stuck through it you would get through and work through the issues, and maybe not, but yeah, it's just something I've noticed.
No, that's a great observation, actually. Um, and I suppose the next piece that's to come up really begins to speak into how one might begin such a journey. This one is called Mirror Me. Me, a name I call myself. Here's the place I start the work. To know the who I am. The same path I take to know you. Like a mirror, like in a mirror, knowing me is knowing you. Feeling me is feeling you. I read that again. Mirror me. Me, a name I call myself. Here the place I start the work. To know the who I am. The same path I take to know you. Like in a mirror. Knowing me is knowing you. Feeling me is feeling you.
And I hear maturity.
Okay, say some more.
Let me just expand a little bit on that. Going back again to 1 Corinthians 13,
Mm,
when I was a child,
mm,
I talked
Yeah.
like a child.
Mm.
I thought like a child.
mm,
I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, and I could remove man there, and when I became mature,
mm,
I put away childhood from behind me.
mm.
So there's a whole issue of maturity, what it does. As someone that's young and immature, it's almost as it's expected for you to mess up the relationship because it's allowed. But
Mm.
when you let's say those who know better do better.
I
Mm.
like that. And that is the key. How do you come to the knowing in order to come to the doing? That is the interesting piece there. Anybody else on this? Thank you, Ian.
I think what came to me was that when we know that whatever we're seeing is a projection of the way we see the world anyway, then we can only know someone when we know us. Because, in idealized love, we're seeing what we want to see, aren't we? And when we're annoyed, we're also seeing the things that we don't want to see. And I think in my marriage, like what started as me liking someone that was kind of dependable and detail oriented became stifling and critical and kind of unnecessarily overcomplicating things. And, so, and it's all here, isn't it? Because he didn't really change that much, I don't think, but the way I saw it changed. So unless we see the way we're seeing it, then that's the first part, isn't it?
That is so powerful what you just shared there, the idea of and this is the point here about this mirror metaphor, is it that
Mm,
to recognize that what you're seeing
mm,
is what you're looking in a mirror at and how you
mm,
can learn from that. Anybody
mm,
else on this?
Yeah, I had a similar thought
Hmm,
about the mirror.
hmm,
'Cause I think sometimes when you're close with someone, sometimes some of the very things that you don't like about them are the same things that you struggle with yourself. But sometimes it's what's reflected back to you, and you can't deal with it because you can't see it in yourself. And that's why sometimes self-awareness is so important.
yeah. No, 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 thank you so much for that. And that is the whole point of this piece, is to say, do you realize that
Mm.
the gift in the conflict is self-awareness? Do you recognize that the thing that you are struggling with, the thing that is triggering you, the trigger? There's something I heard that I just thought was so profound. It was on a reality show, one of the best ones I've seen actually, because there was a real proper counselor there so she said that nobody can press a button that doesn't exist. So the button exists in you, not in the person. The person is pressing your button because you have that button. So the gift of that person is to show you, hey, here's the button, and I'm going to press it just so you know it's there. And this is the reaction it gets. So that then means we begin to look at that and go, okay, what is this telling me about myself? What inner work can I do
yeah. And
about
actually
this?
they're not pressing the button, we're pressing the button.
Yeah.
That's,
Exactly.
and I was just coaching someone yeah, a couple of days ago, and she was talking about potty training because her
Mm,
son is about 9 months old, he's 3.5. And she said, "Oh, he's really pushing my buttons, as well. You just reminded me." And I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "What's happening?" She said, "We're toilet training and we've got the puppy pads and he's got the potty and then he just goes and wheezes on the sofa." And I said, "But he's not actually pushing any buttons. He's just being a kid, like there's," and we had that. And so
Mm.
yeah, like
yeah.
he's actually just being a kid. That's what
Yeah.
he's doing,
Yeah.
but
We take us to the previous piece
yeah,
about being married to the idea of our ideal rather than the reality of what's actually in front of you, to deal with
Yeah.
what's there.
Mm.
I'm seeing also in this, there's a massive distinction between what is said
Mm,
and what is heard.
I like that. Say more.
Because what is it that informs you what you're hearing? That's all you.
Mm,
How do you take that and you process that? And this is what you're hearing when the truth is that that's really all you. That's not what, and this causes a lot. It is always said that communication was the biggest problem in relationship. And
hmm.
it's all because of this issue of what is being said and what is being heard.
Yeah, I like that. And that ability to check in to say, are we on the same page here? What because then people will take what is said and use their own framework to interpret it.
Yes.
And then that might create something else. I mean, I know
Mm.
I'm often someone asks a question going, where are they going with that? What trying to preempt, where's that going? And it's like, oh no, but it's no, no, where's that going? So it is interesting that. Auntie, you want to say something?
Yeah, what I will say to this is about it is nice to know yourself
Hmm.
perfectly,
Hmm.
because it is when you know yourself you'll be able to accommodate the one that you are dealing with.
Hmm.
Maybe at work, maybe marriage, maybe as a friend.
Hmm.
But when it means a communication, we don't have patience to listen to
Hmm.
others, but
Hmm.
we are waiting to defend.
That
That
does that.
brings proper confusion. As soon as you are saying it, you are thinking of how you are going to reply, but you do not take time to listen to what that one is saying.
No, I hear that. And that.
Then at work, I do my experience at work when I first moved to Nigeria. So I was working, somebody was working with a solicitors, about 7 solicitors, only one secretary. So everybody that works there, they always leave. They always leave. So when I got there, they believed, oh, this one is going again. So I studied them, all of solicitors, everything of theirs is urgent. When they bring their scripts, you will see the right paper. They are urgent, pen, urgent, urgent. Where will I start? Then I start. I say, I know myself. I have patience. Let me wait and study them, who they are. Everybody, oh, hey, have you done it? Oh, it's my court is so time. They can frustrate person if you don't sit down properly. So I thought, I called them, I wrote a note. I said, I want to have a meeting with all the 7 solicitors. They were wondering, who is this woman? I want to have. Larry Additional was their boss.
Okay.
So I wrote, then they were all laughing. They didn't know what I want to say. Meeting, meeting, meeting. Okay, yes, meeting. We are having a meeting with our boss. They told me to their boss. So when we got to the meeting, I said, I appreciate their work. I know it's always urgent, but the person that is doing this job is only one person. So we can't distribute these urgency jobs. So please, I don't want to see urgent, urgent in every letters. Tell me, give me the time. This one is urgent, but it's for tomorrow. This one is urgent, is for today. This one is even the next week one they will tell you is urgent. So you won't know where to start. I said, please, the favor I want from you so that I'm ready to work with you. No argument. I want to please everyone. If please go and so on and so forth. They all look at their faces. He said, yeah, I'm talking now. I'm talking the real thing. Everybody wants their job done. Even when it's next week, they want it done today. So that is how we settled the case. So I was there. I lasted long. When I wanted to move to another department in jet travels, they didn't want me to go. Praise the Lord.
That's a great example, really, of working through something rather than just being triggered by something. So it's
Mm.
like everybody says it's urgent. What am I going to do? Blah, 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 blah. Or kind of, okay, how can we have a conversation about how we're going to address this and deal with it and come to some sort of compromise or understanding that supports everybody? And I think that's a wonderful way of working through challenges in a relationship rather than just merely being triggered by it. Or if you're being triggered by it, to lead to how can we do something about it? Recognizing there's something there that is happening. Thank you so much for that. Anything else on that before I read the next piece? Right. So this one speaks a bit to something we've said already about awareness. It's conscious, present and aware. witnessing the program that has become of me, evading my raiders, running on repeat. I'm going to read that again. Conscious, present and aware, witnessing the program that has become of me, evading my raiders, running on repeat. What you hearing?
I think this is tapping into a lot of what we've said about, you just said about understanding the triggers. That's the evading our radars, isn't it? I think a bit, I mean, the way I interpreted that, and the program being the triggers, that we're unaware of, until we become present and aware.
Yeah, I love that. Claudette, were you going to say something? Thanks, Kay.
I don't know. I see this as the battle between the conscious and the unconscious mind.
Wow. Yeah, I like that. Say a bit more.
I just think that we show up in so many different ways, but not everything is conscious. And sometimes we don't, sometimes we go through the motions of going through the motions of everyday life and all what we've got to do. And sometimes we're not aware of what really is happening to us or where certain feelings or thoughts are coming from. So sometimes we just operate on a surface level when really it's the unconscious thing going on in our unconscious mind that's pulling the strings.
Mm.
And the more we become aware of what's going on in the unconscious mind, then we can bring it to the surface.
I love that. I love that. And that is the gift in relationships, even difficult ones. Is that you get to see stuff that you wouldn't otherwise see because those dynamics begin to bring to the surface things that you weren't aware until someone starts saying, well, every time this happens, you tend to do that. And you go, no, I don't. Then when you sit down and really look at it, like Ian was saying earlier, you become humble and willing to look at yourself rather than projecting onto someone else. You then begin to say, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I see that. Okay. For me, I can be defensive if I think someone's trying to criticize me. It's just like, what's going on there? So it's the gift that is in it. And that idea that a good relationship is one that never has any kind of friction, to me, doesn't necessarily ring true. I think you do need things that will help you to see things that you're not seeing so that you can adjust accordingly. Anybody else?
What I can come up with is when we know ourselves, when you can tolerate one another, even what my weakness, which I may not know, if the person that really loves me and cares and want the relationship to go on, we tolerate. And he will know how to correct me in love.
I like that. I like that.
When we bottle things up, then we be marking our calendar. Yesterday, this is what he did. Last week is the same thing. I don't think he will change, so I will back out. Meanwhile, that person may not even be conscious of what he's doing that is upsetting you.
Yeah.
So then it's another punishment that is there is when you bottle things up. You will be grieving your heart. Your face will be screwed up. The person you are doing that because of that may not even realize. So you'll be punishing yourself for what the person does not even be conscious of.
No, I like that. I like that.
Yeah. And my experience for that, I had a friend in my primary school. I love her so much. We love ourselves. But she did something to me that I was scared to ask her. Maybe if I ask her, she'll be angry. Maybe we won't be friends no more. I begin to punish myself. So to the extent when I was angry, then I'd be angry in my house. Okay, why am I keeping quiet? When I see her tomorrow, this is what I'm going to say. This is what I will be rehearsing in my house. Sleepless nights. So when I made up my mind to ask her, she wasn't in school that day. What happened? She wasn't in school. They said she was sick for the whole week. I didn't say her. You can imagine the punishment I gave myself. So by the time I was still bored. Okay, let me ask her. So I hope you are better now. This is what you've done. This is what he said. I didn't realize it. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you imagine this punishment I've given myself for a long, long time? So it is better to say it out in love so that your relationship will carry on.
I like that. I like that. And that idea of how the mind creates experiences that's not necessarily based on reality. We like to believe that if we're experiencing something, it's because some reality is producing it. But it's just our thinking about it that produces that experience. So that other person is not experiencing anything at all, but we are experiencing all those things. And it's not even based on a truth. It's not based on reality. It's our perception and story about it. So it's kind of seeing how the mind is in that regard, really. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that story. These stories are very helpful because they help contextualize and put into flesh the stuff that we're talking about. So it's no longer so abstract. Yes, Kate.
Frank, I just want to say goodbye because this lady needs to go to bed.
Hello, lady that needs to go to bed.
Young
Thank,
lady.
say goodbye.
Thank you for allowing mom to be here for a bit.
Say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you all. It was a
Thank
great
you.
session, Frank.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much
I enjoyed
for
it.
joining us.
Take care.
Really
All right,
appreciate it.
bye.
Okay, bye.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to read this piece called Conditioning because I think it speaks to some of the stuff we've been talking about. Living historically, thanks to my conditioning, showing up hysterically, till I see through mystically what serves me intentionally, disrupting long-held programming, life experienced currently. I read that again, conditioning. Living historically, thanks to my conditioning, showing up hysterically, till I see through mystically what serves me intentionally, disrupting long-held programming, life experienced currently.
It is said that we are a product of our environment. And I think sometimes the environment is incorrect. And it is when you, as it says, when you grow up, you are realizing that some of these so-called norms that grandma and grandpa spoke about, they were actually incorrect. I mean, you would never dare to stand before them and tell them that. But you have gotten old enough to realize that they actually were off. Or it could be that it was correct in that time and that season, but things have changed so far to the left that if you were to do that now, it would be chaotic and absolute confusion.
I hear that.
Because I'm just thinking, we go to school and we're taught about math, we're taught about English and science, but who really and truly has ever sat down with us and taught us about relationships?
No, I hear that. I really do hear that. I really do hear that. And that's why some of these things are coming up now, because they're things that we're just seeing once we grow up and are in these long-term relationships that we never saw during those times. And depending on what kind of mentorship you got from your parents as well, and what generation they grew up in and what rules applied. So there's so many different factors there that could result in different kinds of conditioning. Thank you so much for that. And the opportunity these relationships gives us is to begin to see the product of those conditioning and to begin to be more current and present to it so that you can see, like you say, if it's serving you or if it's not serving you. The fact that it served some people in some generation doesn't mean it's going to serve us now. So again, it's us being aware so that we can be conscious, so that we can make different choices. Anybody else?
Yeah, I thought of very similar, but I thought of this made me think about living in the past. Living in the past or allowing the past to dictate your current,
Mm.
or allowing the past to stop you from living in the present.
I like that. Yeah. No, I hear that. Have you got any examples or anything to kind of put more flesh on that for us?
Um, I would think I remember once I used to go out with this guy that I really, really, really liked. And he had to move away to another country.
Mm,
And we had wonderful times together. We had lots of places, I had lots of lovely experiences. And when he went away, I found it so hard to move on
mm,
to the point where I wasn't living in the present. I was living in the past. And because I was living in the past, it made me stuck.
mm,
And it also made me close the door. So when I could have had other relationships with other people that would have been just as fulfilling and enjoyable, I closed the door to that because I was too busy in the past.
Mm.
And when then what I had to do, once I had to do, I started doing a mindfulness course at the time. And through mindfulness, I learned how to be present, not just in everything I did. I learned how to be present when I was having a cup of tea, when I was having a
Mm.
shower. I had
Mm.
to learn how to be present in my daily life. And that's how use that model to then move on in that from that relationship.
I love that. That's such a wonderful example.
Mm.
The ability to be present. And that's the whole point about life experience currently. So are you experiencing life now, or are you experiencing your
Mm.
thought about life and how it should be and how it used to be and stuff like that? Because yeah, I can see you nodding there, Ian. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, because I'm listening to her story and I'm laughing because I have a similar story, but it's slightly different from hers.
Right,
And this is how, not my experience with somebody, but hearing something that happened to somebody, I decided I wasn't going to let that happen to me.
right.
Here I am having this relationship, which was just absolutely amazing. You
Mm,
couldn't have asked for better. There were actually, you talk about quarrel and so on. Honestly, I can't remember ever having a quarrel with this young lady.
mm,
She was amazing. She got through to go to Canada, and for some strange reason, because of a friend of mine, his girlfriend went to Canada and she left him, and it literally broke him
mm,
to dust.
mm,
And so 3 weeks after she went, I called her and I said, listen, I'm going to give you your freedom because you are all the way in Canada. And listen, every time I remember it, I feel so bad. And even recently, I thought of calling her and just saying, I'm really sorry because I just said to her, I'm not going to continue. I'm going to give you your freedom. And
mm.
she begged and she bawled. And I can't believe I was so cold because that's not me. I thought that was me. But I just wasn't going to get my heart broken.
Mm.
And that was how the relationship ended.
I hear that. I hear that. And that just goes to show there's different ways of coming at this, right? But the point is that there's possibility. Is there? I love what Claudette said there about being so stuck in the past that you're not open to future possibilities. But also you've almost gone the other side of saying, look, I'm
Exactly
not even
right.
going to allow the potential for this to even unfold. Let's
Yeah.
just kill it here. But I think what's important is for us to see beyond the stories of the mind that both are possible and you will eat the fruit of it thereof. So it really, the challenge I see for us today really is this whole idea of when we come to the subject of love, it's multidimensional as we humans are multidimensional, and there's so many possibilities within it. So that we may open and have an open, aware, and conscious mind about that is what I'm saying. Anything else? Oh, wow, where's all that time gone? Okay. I'm going to ask each person just what's your biggest takeaway from today, and then we'll close the call. Ian, what's your biggest takeaway from today?
The last thing that Claudette spoke about, just let the past be the past and
Right.
embrace
Mm.
that is which is new.
I like that. Claudette, what about you?
Um, that love can be expressed in multiple of ways.
I like that. I like that. Auntie, what are you taking away from today?
I didn't know the time is gone. I was just looking for the Bible verse, where Paul said, "Put aside the past and move on and move forward."
Right.
So what I see is that, relationship, don't bottle anything in your heart. Pour it out. Listen to your partner or whosoever. Consider, don't defend yourself. Wait and see, so that you can see what is wrong with the second person, so that your relationship will carry on and you enjoy yourselves. Happiness is the key.
Thank you very much. Oh, that's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your wonderful contributions and stories and vulnerability. It's been such an enriching conversation. Whatever you're doing for the rest of your day, have a wonderful weekend.